Guys, Jeremy here with Simple Life. Welcome back. Welcome to the channel if you're new here. This video, I'm just going to show you a modification that I did to a sandblast cabinet that has made an incredible difference. Now, it wasn't this sandblast cabinet. This is one that I've had for about 8 years, and I've never been thrilled with it. I've replaced the glass several times. The gloves have holes in them now, so I've got to be quite careful when I'm using it. And overall, it's had a good life, but it's time to move on. This is the new sandblast cabinet. I picked this up from Princess Auto, who is the sponsor of this video. And this is very typical to these not very expensive sandblast cabinets. Harbor Freight's looks very similar to this. We've got a door on the side for loading, which is nice. Kind of put it in here. This has a better grate system than that one did. That one actually took the grate out a long time ago and it was just resting on the media while I was using it. But this here hose coming out the side, this is not typical. So I'll show you the modifications I made to this thing after I assembled it. Now, quick note, when I assembled this thing, I actually took the time and I siliconed every joint, I siliconed everything so as to keep it sealed up as best as possible. And it took quite a while to put this thing together. As it was, well, let's just show you the modification first. Now, to understand the modifications I made to this one, let me just show you the inherent problem with this system. And that is that these ones use a siphon tube. So the tube, this one here that feeds the abrasive, it just goes down here, it's kind of anchored on the bottom, and it's just a metal tube that pulls things up from the pile of abrasive that's in your cabinet. Now, when you buy these ones, that's how they come as well. The siphon tube kind of sits down in the bottom there. But I have made a modification. I've seen other folks do this on YouTube, and this has been unbelievable. So at the bottom of these units, they have this hopper, and this is designed so you can just drain out your sand. So what I did here is I drilled a hole, a 1-inch hole, put a pipe flange on there, a short little nipple, a T, plug that up, so that's my new drain. And then we come across here with about a 4-inch long piece of 1-inch pipe. I tapped it, nice and crooked there, and I've got a little ball valve there. Now that is an air mixing valve. And from there, the sand comes up through this tube. I went in here with a sort of a homemade bulkhead. I took a flange on this side, drilled a hole, put another flange on the other side, and then I have these pipe to hose barbs here. And so essentially I've got one of those on each side. Now initially I was thinking about cutting those hose barbs, cutting the threaded portion off, welding them together, cutting a hole right in here and TIG welding around, but these are such thin material and then I would have to paint and all that. I thought, you know what, let's just do this. I did end up cutting this one right here just so that I would clear the door. So there's clearance there. But essentially now, rather than using a siphon tube, we're pulling from the bottom. And what this air mixing valve does is it allows you to choose how much air comes in. And I find this gives a much more consistent draw. Whereas with my other unit, I would get surging. Like it would come in and kind of, there'd be not much, and all of a sudden you could feel it and the gun go boom, and kind of surge, the medium would surge through and hit the gun. That doesn't happen with this system. And you can control the concentration. If you just want straight sand being pulled up, you can do that. But I find if you crack it just a little bit and have a little bit of air mixing in, it just keeps everything so smooth and consistent and delivers a really nice consistent blast to whatever it is that you're blasting in here. Another really big improvement that I made was the medium that I was using. Previously, I was using like recycled glass, silica-based stuff. And I was listening to the Work For It podcast, and Mr. Brian House was talking about using aluminum oxide abrasive. And Princess Auto had that as well, so I picked some of that stuff up. I've got 80 grit. Oh my word. It is aggressive, but in a good way. So this is the silica, which is fairly typical. Nasty to breathe, so is that other stuff. And this is aluminum oxide abrasive. Now I can't give you a before and after performance based on this unit because I never did install the siphon tube. I just chucked that out because at the same time I bought this, I bought all the fittings and this tubing to make the changes. So this thing has never operated with the siphon tube, but based on my experience with that older one, the siphon tube, and this one, this is just a completely different experience. It is unbelievable how nice it is. When I used this one, I was like, so that's what they're supposed to be like. Now I do have a minimalist EDC in Nitro V that has been heat treated, ground, it's ready to be blasted, and after that I'm going to jump it in my ceramic tumbler, my vibratory machine, and the finish that I can get off of this stuff is really quite impressive, especially for things like, EDCs, things that are not necessarily going to have scales. I like to have a really just a very robust finish that will age well. You know, if you put a real nice polish on it, or put some really nice grain in it, move it around in your pocket, it scrapes against your keys, you're gonna get random scratches. So I found this little system using this sandblaster and my tumbler, I can get this really interesting random pattern that's not acid etched. It's really cool. I'll show you that. Just let me go grab that knife. All right, so here is the blade. Give you a close-up of it. Again, this is Nitro V. Got some nice bevels on there. We ground this one really thin. And I ended up just kind of polishing this side here. I'm not even really rounding the edges on this one. I'm gonna leave them fairly square, but this is a knife that I really like this knife. It's very thin, it's very light. Got some nice thumb jimping there, but it's a usable size, makes a great EDC, and the finish, I want an interesting finish on this. So let's go ahead, give this a blast. I'll show you what it looks like out of the blast cabinet, and then we'll throw it in the tumbler, and I'll show you the end result. One thing I still need to do to this unit is what I've done to this other one, and that is this. A nice 4-inch port for my dust collector. For now, these things come with this one for a shop vac. So for this demonstration, we're just gonna put the shop vac up to this thing. And even with the shop vac hooked up, you still wanna wear a respirator. You do not want anything to do with this stuff getting in your lungs. So we'll put the knife right in there. We'll get our air line. All right, hopefully you'll be able to see something that's going on in there. All right. So if you remember what this was like before, this is what we have now. Very nice matte finish, and you saw how quickly that was. So I really quite like that finish. Now, one big advantage to this system is that right now I only have about 2 or 3 cups of abrasive in the cabinet, and that's all I need. I don't run out. It goes to the bottom, gets sucked up again, and if I wanted to, say, go between a process where I'm doing a really coarse grit, I could quickly dump that all out, and then I could put a finer grit in there, and I'm only transferring, you know, maybe 3-4 cups of abrasive medium at a time, rather than putting in a half a pail or a half a bag. So that's the other advantage to this modification on the bottom of the cabinet. But let's go ahead and throw this in the tumbler. We'll leave it in there for about 10-15 minutes, and I'll show you the result. So what I'm using here, these are little ceramic cylinders. And I probably have about a cup of WD-40 in there. And so just drop the knife in there, close it up, turn it on, and come back. Let's see what we have. Where are you, little knifey? There you are. All right, let's wipe this down and I'll let you see what it looks like. Very nice matte finish, almost like an acid stone wash, but without the acid. Quite happy with that. I like that. That's going to be great for a lot of these blades that don't get handle scales. Now, a few other things to consider with blast cabinets. Dry air is going to make a big difference in how well things flow. Also, relative humidity. If you live in the south where it's incredibly humid, you're going to have a higher humidity concentration in your media, and that will tend to clump it up and it won't flow quite as well. I live in Alberta. This time of year, it's incredibly dry here, so I don't have to worry about that. And in fact, I don't even have a dryer hooked up on my air compressor yet. But this little modification in the bottom there, it is a completely different experience. And for about maybe $30 in fittings, even my old cabinet, I probably could have modified it somehow. The bottom of that one is kind of like a V, so it doesn't have any hopper that comes straight down, but I could have put a flange there and then just cut a hole in the table that's sitting on, but I think that was well worth it. Hopefully it gives you guys some idea of a way that you could modify your sandblast cabinet. If you have one of these and you're just not crazy about its performance, I'm pretty sure, like 100% sure, that putting this little setup on the bottom is going to significantly improve the performance. It's just amazing how well it flows and very consistent. Again, none of that surging, that my other one, sometimes I would actually shake the cabinet while I was blasting and kind of stir the media up a little bit. I don't have to do that with this, and I'm super, super impressed. I want to thank Princess Auto for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching it, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Oh, I should just put my maker's mark on this, and then this will be available. You could have it if you wanted.